What's up guys, it's Josh. Today I decided that I was gonna do a little more of a, we'll call it a deeper dive into the Headrush. The way I'm gonna do it, instead of going through a bunch of amps and a bunch of different effects and everything, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with a blank preset, just completely fresh, and then I'm going to build it based on what I would use. So this will be less of a tutorial on how to do it yourself and more of a tutorial on how I would do it, so take that with a grain of salt. I've gotten several questions and messages about how I get this tone or how I get that tone, so instead of answering all of them, I felt like this would make it a little more informative, and then you can obviously build something off of this, but also have your own flavor and preferences lined up with it. So without further ado, let's get to it. Alright, so now that we're over here, we're going to start by going over all the basics really fast. So obviously this button, this is for your signal chain, whatever kind of path you're looking to throw in. This is one that splits off into a stereo rig, same thing here, but more blocks on the end. And then this is the one that I use. And by default, I always turn tail on because that gives you those trails in between moving from preset to preset and scene to scene. So very top, so these are all my presets. This is how I'm basically going to go through everything. So this is my input section, and this is kind of what I use for pretty much everything. I have usually pretty noisy guitars, so my filter's wide open. Input gain, gate threshold, release, all those things, so just so you can have a generalized idea, that's what it looks like. Alright, moving right on, we're going to start with the first block, and that is going to be a compressor. I use the Dynacomp. It's my favorite one. That's the one I had for years on my board years ago, and I loved it to death. We're just going to go to the main one, and then I'm going to open it so you can see the settings. This goes for pretty much all of my guitars. Very rarely do I change this. The next one would be chorus, and I'm a big fan of chorus, so it's just basically the normal chorus here, and then main. I don't turn sync on because I don't really feel like that's necessary, so, you know, is what it is. And then let's move it right along. The next one would be tremolo. And this is, again, one of those things I'm actually really happy that I get to kind of use this consistently. I have a lot of fun with tremolo now. Never thought I would, but I actually love using it. So I have it on hard 8s, and it's a really stiff kind of thing. It's more of effect. I'm not going to use it for an entire part or anything crazy along those lines. I use the Morningstar MC6 to tap it in, tap tempo, and then that kind of sends the signal for that. We're gonna go to modulation. Now this is the POG, we'll call it, but basically it's just a octave down to make my leads kick up a little bit more. I really like the way that this sounds. Big octave down, that's the settings that I use. Octave 1, octave 2 is like really, really low because that's a double sub octave. And then I've got the mix pretty low so it's not overpowering. I'm going to put in my overdrives. The first one, it's the SD1 overdrive. This is the settings that I use. This just tends to vibe with my rig the best, so that's the reason it's like that. Next one up would be same thing, another drive, but we're going to, you guys know I love me some Tube Screamer, so this would go here, and then this is light drive. And then next is going to be the amp section. So amp, and I'm gonna go to the this is my headless preset, and then right over here you can see that there's a ×2. Bam, now we're in stereo amp. So this is a Soldano 100 on the clean channel. These are all the normal settings that I use. And then here is the cabinet section. I actually use IRs for this, not the actual cabinet. So we're gonna go to the 1024, and then let's do the beef. It's basically a bunch more bass and low end, so that's what that looks like. This is the actual IR itself. That's the preset. Okay, moving on. As you guys can see, it's like super easy to do this once you know the buttons. It's like instantly makes your life 1,000 times easier. It's super nice and super easy. All right, and then the next is going to be the wonderful delay. I use the dynamic delay. Just so far that's been my favorite one. As you can obviously see, there is crazy awesome amounts of different things you've got going on over here. It's really cool, so we can dive into that another day, but this is just the basic stuff that I use. So let's go down. That's usually the one that's a typical one. That's all my settings for it. This is a stereo split left and right delay, so there's a lot of crazy effects going on, all that stuff. And obviously you can toggle between stereo and mono if you need that. Again, that's why I absolutely recommend the Simple Switch Effects junction box right here. I swear by it. It's probably the best. I think it was $50, which is crazy. Best 50 bucks I've spent in a long time. And then next we're gonna run over to do my absolute favorite. Thank you, Lord, for gracing us with verb. We're gonna hit the 11 verb and we're gonna go to normal. This is the first verb that is always on for pretty much everything that I do. And then we've got different presets, you know, to run through, but this is like the simple one. It's the extra long. Also, read the manuals, ladies and gentlemen, because all of these are not just presets, they are algorithms. They're different algorithms. Good on Headrush for doing this, because this kind of changed the game for me. Again, after I was already pretty much sold on this, I came back and I found this and I got really happy, and I realized how much more it opened up for me. So there's that. If you set this up right here and then you tap this drop tab, when you scroll through all of these different things going on, it will change in lifetime based on this set of parameters. And then same thing with right here, like these are all the crazy different algorithms. This is how I accidentally found out, because I'm not very smart. As I was popping through, I was like, wait, why does this sound so much better? And then I went back and I realized every one of these are separate reverb algorithms. And as you can obviously tell, you know, we're looking at dozens here. And then now we're gonna do a second of the same verb, but what we're gonna put it on is, let's go huge. So this one, as you can see, is pretty obnoxiously set super high on everything. The very last thing we're gonna do, I have presets for everything. So acoustic, when I have to play acoustic for whatever reason, then I've got the quick mono selection, which I don't even need anymore. I could delete that. And then the stereo. All I did was just crank the rig width wide open and then brought the volume down because it seemed to be punching really hard and sometimes clipping. The width just is the measurement of how far you want your left and right signal to split, whether they be completely independent or do they mingle just a little bit or a lot or whatever that means. That's what that does. And then also, as you'll probably notice down here, when we were popping in these blocks, it was automatically assigning them to these switches. That's cool that it does that. Obviously, I don't want that, because that's why I have these buttons down here to do all of these things. So what we're gonna do is now we're gonna hop to hardware assign. Now, this is where the meat of all of my presets go. So this obviously is a toggle for that Dynacomp. What I wanna do is I wanna change that. So instead of toggle, I'm gonna hit that button down there, and then it goes to scene 1. And we can obviously name it. We'll go intro. Okay, and then kind of pop out, and then now that's named intro. And when you back out, bang, there it is. So there's that. All right, so what we're gonna do is if you hit edit right here, this is going to be your command center of what you want this to be. Now, what I said in the last video is that most recently on the update they just put out, there's now a second switch state per scene. So that means this has 6 scenes altogether. So you have 6 options with the 11 blocks that are on your signal chain at any given time, and it's super easy to get to all of them. So great example. So whenever I go to this preset, this is automatically going to be on. So I want to make sure whenever I load in, I want my main compressor on, I want my chorus, let's say off, tremolo, it can be no change. Whenever you save this up here, what it's going to do is it's going to save what the state of everything is in, no matter what this is assigned to. So right now you can see it's not lit up. I press it, it's now lit up. If you touch something else, so now if I save it right here like this, and then I go somewhere else, this is just another preset that I have right here. Let's switch to lead, whatever. Pop this down and then go back to here. It immediately recalls this. Let's change this to scene number 2, and let's say this is the chorus of a song. We'll call it that, sure. And then let's edit this up. Now, we can set this up to whenever we go from the first scene to the second scene, we want a bunch of things to change, maybe. So let's say no change on the compressor, because it's fine where it is. And let's say we want to turn on the screamer. We'll put that on light. Amp no change. IR no change, which is your block. This basically will mean that in this entire preset, nothing about the amp or the IR is going to change no matter what you press right here. Unless you manually reach down and move it, it's not going anywhere. And then let's say we can leave the delay on. Let's kick on instead of the normal verb, let's kick on a big verb, and then we'll say this is off, and this is the huge one, and then we're good on that. So now, whenever I go here, from here, this is what it's going to look like. We go here, go back, and now those things that we told to change are now changing, which is really cool. We've got this third block. Let's change it to scene 3. Let's say this can be outro. Boom, there it is. Edit it up. It still has the 2 separate switch states. We'll get into that. And let's say this one, we want all the goods. We want to turn on the SD1. We want this to be a stage 1 gain instead. Really quick, why this is stage 1. So this is light. This is the normal one that's on typically. Stage 1 is just the parameters switched or moved up a little bit for more gain, more volume. So that's the light, and that's stage 1. So just more gain, more everything. We'll keep the compressor at no change, but on the preset, we're gonna go to boost. This is one of those things that I really like that this does. So we'll get, this is big verb, and then we'll go crazy, and let's say we want to do huge too. So now we have this ridiculous wash. You know, why not? Who cares? We're living happy and fancy. Go to big. So now we have all these crazy effects on this switch here. So, all right, and then we also want to go back through all of these, and we want to make sure what we don't want on, make sure it's set to off. So as we switch through, so there's the first one. The second one, we want to turn it off here. Same thing, that's the S1 drive. And then here we want it on. So now, if you go back to the front, so there's all of the craziness. We're going to go from start to finish. So this is the start, just the normal setup with everything. We've got the light drive, a little bit of verb and delay, normal compressor, nothing crazy up here. Move to the next one. Now we're at chorus. We're going to have a little more gain, a little more wet effects, and then here we just go absolutely insane, and for whatever reason, we have no goal in life and we want to run 2 reverbs at once because we came from church. And then to make sure everything's super clear here, this I'm going to go through is the second switch state of everything, and this is the way that I use it. I talked about it in my last video. I leave this on, and it's the light version, which is the smallest amount it possibly could be. Off, 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 and then we're gonna do the boost. So what this is I don't have any drives on, but it kicks my signal just a little bit to hit the amps. I like the way that sounds, so I'm cool with that. And then let's say we want the delay off as well. So we're gonna go back and switch to it. So this is the normal intro. Whenever you go to it, whatever the situation, kick to it. Delay kills, verbs on, very light. This goes to boost, and then this overdrive is off. And that's the way it looks. So that's probably the coolest thing about the scenes on here, is they really thought about this and how to make this practical, and they did such a fantastic job with it. All right, and then last thing, obviously this has the expression pedal, so how are we gonna use that? Because as you can see, I didn't add in the volume here, so we gotta tell this to do something. So what I did, and bear with me, this is a little bit complicated, but it was just the way I had to do it with the rig that I have. So we went to advanced mode, and then I basically selected these parameters. You hit like a plus down here. So when you hit the plus, I went to input and then input gain, just so there's a visual. So, and then when you go to range, these are my settings to where whenever I back off and go forward, these are the settings according to the input block that we talked about earlier. So the input block, so the settings I just showed you, the percentages amount to the correct amount. When this is toe down, it puts everything where it's supposed to be. When toe down, and then heel down, it kills my signal entirely. Input gain goes all the way down, threshold goes all the way up. The only purpose really for that is I'm spoiled, came from a worship world, and I want to be able to take my volume pedal, do that, and tune and not have to worry about it. And that's the perfect way to do it. And I never have had any issues with that, and I actually love the way that it works. If I ever went back to church, I would pop a volume block in here somewhere. I'm sure I could figure it out, and I would actually have this for swells. Super unnecessary for my rig as it is. And that is pretty much it. So The jams at the beginning and end of the video are going to be this preset, and I'm just going to run through. I know I'm likely going to want this chorus to definitely be on pretty much for the whole thing because of the jam that I have planned. So all of that's going to be on, and then my big solo section, outro, solo. This will be the most gain, and I'll have everything rolling. So yeah, let's give that a listen. That's from a blank preset from scratch all the way up to what I would take to a gig and actually play with it. So I hope everything was super informative. I tried to be as clear and straightforward as I could be without rambling on too much. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys could, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I really appreciate everything that everybody's done for me so far. But you guys let me know if you want something more specific. I love doing the Headrush content because this unit's so much fun to use. I'm cool with it. So with that said, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.